When he transmigrated into a novel, he was only a worthless background character, so he stole the protagonist's opportunities before the story even began. But one of them gave him an X-rank, limitless talent, removing his growth limit completely. And while the real protagonist believes his system will make him the strongest, he has no idea an extra is already stealing his entire future. When he opened his eyes, he found himself inside an unfamiliar luxury room. Strange advanced machines surrounded him, including a floating ball of light. Before he could understand anything, intense pain suddenly hit his head. A huge amount of unfamiliar memories rushed into his mind. After nearly 30 minutes, the pain finally disappeared. He checked the mirror and saw an ordinary 14-year-old boy, black hair, black eyes, and nothing special about his appearance. Then he finally understood what happened. He had transmigrated. Yesterday, he finished reading a novel called Strongest Mage with a System. After going to sleep, he somehow entered that novel's world and became nothing more than a background character. After calming down, he used his new memories to understand his situation. This body's owner was an orphan with a sword-related talent. He had already been accepted into Great Freya Academy, the largest government academy in human territory. This world looked modern, but dungeon gates appeared everywhere. Different races lived on Earth, while space rifts expanded the planet massively. Humans also possessed supernatural powers and personal status windows. But the novel's protagonist had something even better. He owned a system that allowed him to grow stronger using exp. The academy entrance ceremony was still 1 month away. That gave him enough time to steal some opportunities meant for the protagonist. And he had no reason to feel guilty about it. He had always been selfish, even in his previous life. In this world, strength decided everything. Being weak only meant becoming someone else's target. So, protecting the original story was the last thing he cared about. His own survival came first. He looked outside while drinking his tea. Once again, he was an orphan, but that did not bother him. For now, only one thing mattered. Let's check my status. Rio checked his status. He was just an F+ swordsman with C+ potential, C-rank sword aptitude, and 1 weak F skill. Even the system said he was not worthy of an evaluation. Rio sighed, as expected from an extra. Still, he was currently a little stronger than the protagonist. The protagonist would only receive his cheat before the midterm exams. In the original story, he was constantly bullied by others. Then 1 week before the exams, he awakened a heaven-defying system. He defeated his bullies, topped the written exam, and jumped from the lowest rank directly into the top 100. Rio found the whole story extremely cliché, but there was no point thinking about that now. His first goal was stealing some opportunities for himself. After preparing for half an hour, Rio left the student dorms. He headed toward the nearby station. Even with the original Rio's memories, the advanced technology still amazed him. The bus itself could actually fly. After traveling for 1 hour, Rio finally reached Rift Mountain. The mountain was extremely tall and surrounded by many space rifts. Even its peak was completely covered by them. Those rifts could send people to unknown places inside the void. Once someone got lost inside, returning was nearly impossible, but Rio already knew the protagonist would survive one of them. During a future tour, a villain would kick him into a rift. Instead of killing him, it would send him inside the mountain. Rio remembered exactly which rift it was. A black, sinister rift surrounded by 5 blood-colored rifts, located behind the mountain near a beautiful lake. After searching the area, he finally found it. The rift looked dangerous, but this was his only chance to become stronger. After a short hesitation, Rio jumped inside. His body suddenly became weightless, and his senses disappeared. A few minutes later, he appeared inside an ancient ruined room. Rio walked toward the center and took out a dagger. He cut his finger and dropped several drops of blood onto the floor. A complex magic circle instantly appeared across the entire room. It started glowing brightly. Pain spread through Rio's whole body. 5 minutes later, it finally disappeared. The magic circle faded, and a portal opened in front of him. Rio entered without hesitation. A few minutes later, he appeared beside the same lake. It was already getting dark. He checked the time on his wrist clock. Only 1 hour had passed since he entered the rift. Rio decided to check his status later. For now, he needed to leave immediately. After dark, the rifts produced a powerful suction force. Someone as weak as Rio could easily be pulled inside. Only people above rank C could resist it. Without wasting any more time, Rio headed toward a nearby hotel. Back at the hotel, Rio decided to rest. He had successfully stolen the protagonist's first opportunity, but there was still one more thing he wanted, so he decided to get it the next day. The next morning, Rio traveled to the dark forest. Even during daytime, the forest was almost completely dark. Luckily, he already knew the route from the novel. After half an hour, he reached a hidden entrance near a huge boulder. Using the secret mechanism, Rio opened a staircase underground. At the bottom, he entered a small room, where an old book was floating in the air. The moment he touched it, the book entered his mind. After absorbing its knowledge, Rio learned the elemental sword art. Its mastery immediately reached F+, and he unlocked its first skill, Lightning Sword. With his second goal complete, Rio returned to the academy. Back in his dorm, he finally checked his status. His rank had increased from F+ to E+, but the biggest change was his potential. His maximum rank was now unlimited. Rio had gained the X rank talent, Limitless, and his sword aptitude had also risen to X rank. His basic swordsmanship reached E, while elemental sword art remained F+. He also gained Lightning Sword at G. Even his evaluation completely changed. The system now called him an anomaly with unlimited potential. Rio quickly realized Limitless came from Rift Mountain, and it had also upgraded his sword aptitude. Now he only needed to train for 1 month before the entrance ceremony. As for the protagonist losing these opportunities, Rio was not worried. The protagonist had a system shop and could buy talents, items, and skill books from it. So, Rio believed his actions would not seriously change the original story. Rio spent the entire month training inside his private academy room. Only 1,000 students were accepted into Great Freya Academy worldwide. Rio wondered how his original body entered without any connections. Then he learned the academy reserved 100 free seats for commoners and orphans. The original Rio was one of those lucky students. The protagonist, Fade Crest, was also among them. After 1 month of hard training, Rio checked his progress. His rank had already reached D. His Limitless and sword aptitude talents remained X rank. Basic swordsmanship and elemental sword art both reached D, while body strengthening and lightning sword reached E+. Rio knew his fast growth came from his upgraded sword aptitude. However, progress would become much slower after reaching D rank. Still, his month of intense training had clearly paid off. Now it was time for the academy entrance ceremony. Rio quickly headed toward the ceremony hall. At exactly 9 a.m., the doors closed and the ceremony began. A beautiful woman stepped onto the stage. She introduced herself as Raji Croft. The academy principal and an SS rank awakened. The students immediately became excited. Raji was one of only 3 SS rank humans, and also the strongest frost mage. In this world, no race currently had an S rank awakened. Because of that, SS rank fighters represented the true power of each race. Even a single SS rank awakened could protect an entire race. Rio also knew Fade would eventually reach SSS rank in the future and save humanity from an S rank dungeon. After Raji finished her speech, the academy introduced its top first-year student. Please welcome our first ranker, Link Rex. Rio immediately recognized him. Link Rex was the main villain of the novel. He was the only son of Ashtel Rex, an NS rank awakened and head of the Awakeners Association. Link had SS rank potential and trained in martial arts since childhood. He was talented enough to possibly reach S rank through talent alone. On the surface, Link looked kind. But inside, he was a dangerous sadist who would do anything to win. He also had many followers, and even an S rank guard secretly protecting him. Rio immediately decided to avoid him. This guy is dangerous. I should never get involved with him. Only Fade Crest could eventually compete with Link. But right now, Link was already D+ rank. According to the novel, he would reach C rank after the midterms. After the ceremony ended, students headed toward their classes. Rio soon arrived at Class A3. It was the same class as Fade and several other important characters. Looks like my academy life won't be peaceful. Rio entered and chose the third desk beside the window. He had always been a loner, so he had no interest in talking with the other students. Soon, a cold-faced woman entered the classroom. She introduced herself as their new class teacher. Rio already knew exactly who she was. Anna Dat, an S-rank fire magician. Anna began taking attendance and asked each student to introduce themselves. First was Link Rex. He introduced himself politely and asked everyone to treat him normally, despite being an SS rank son. But Rio knew his real personality. Link was already planning to target the lowest-ranked student in class. Next came Kira Bloodlight. Rio immediately recognized her as the main heroine. She introduced herself as a mage. Then came Leah Silver, the only villainess in the original novel. Leah was a swordsman who strongly hated mages. She constantly fought with Kira and never accepted Fade's feelings. In the original story, she would eventually die inside an SSS rank gate. A few minutes later, Anna called Rio. Rank 505. Rio Flash. Rio was satisfied with his ranking. After a short introduction, he waited for the protagonist's turn. Finally, rank 1000, Fade Crest. Anna called his name several times, but nobody answered. Then she noticed Fade sleeping at the back of the classroom. She walked over and slapped him awake, sending him straight into the wall. Rio immediately realized Anna was just as ruthless as the novel described. She warned Fade never to sleep in her class again. Then she gave the same warning to everyone else. Since it was their first day, Anna took them to the training grounds. There, every student could choose a training weapon. Rio selected a two-handed longsword. He already knew the teachers would secretly watch them through cameras, so he decided to ignore everyone and focus on training. Rio headed toward the gravity room. Meanwhile, Fade remained frozen near the weapons for almost half an hour. Eventually, he picked up a mage staff and approached the practice dummies. He tried casting a fireball, but the flame was barely larger than a lighter. The nearby students immediately started laughing. Even the teachers watching through the cameras were disappointed. Anna was especially angry. She could not understand how Fade entered the academy. After 2 hours, the first training session finally ended. Rio returned to his dorm and thought about his current strength. His training was still not enough. Once Fade awakened his system, his growth would become extremely fast. Rio needed enough strength to protect himself before that happened. Right now, Fade was still a coward, but after gaining his system, he would become arrogant and start attacking anyone who stood against him. Rio had no intention of being controlled by him. If Fade ever tried, Rio was ready to put a sword to his neck. Fighting was allowed inside the academy, as long as nobody was killed, tortured, or fatally injured. Because of this rule, Link's followers would soon start beating Fade every day. They would never seriously injure him, but their bullying would eventually trigger his system awakening. Rio already knew what was coming, and he was looking forward to it. After the first day, regular classes and training officially began. Everything went smoothly for Rio, but Fade became the bullies' main target almost immediately. They beat him nearly every day. Rio ignored it and focused completely on his own training. For the next 4 months, he followed the same strict routine. He trained every morning, attended class, meditated afterward, then continued training again late at night. In this world, meditation could keep increasing someone's mana capacity, but the body had to be strong enough to contain that mana. Otherwise, too much mana could become dangerous. During these 4 months, Rio greatly increased his mana. His rank and skills also improved, but his growth had become slower and more stable. Rio preferred that over fast progress with weaknesses. He also fully adapted to his new body. As his soul completely synchronized, Rio recovered all the body's old memories. The original Rio actually had a family until age 10, but his hometown was destroyed during a demon attack, an event later known as the Drift City Massacre. Rio survived only because he was unconscious beneath the debris. After being rescued, he was sent to an orphanage. Rio also realized something strange. His soul did not completely replace the original Rio. It felt more like both souls had merged, while Rio's own mind remained in control. Still, he decided to use this new life properly. After 4 months of training, he checked his status. Rio had reached D+ rank. His basic swordsmanship and elemental sword art were both D+. While body strengthening and lightning sword reached D, his mana had increased to 800, and both strength and defense reached 50. Those two stats had now hit their current limit. They could not increase further until Rio reached B rank. But today was more important for another reason. This was the day Fade would finally receive his system. Fade was still only G rank in magic, so even after awakening his cheat, catching Rio would take time. However, Fade's system had one extremely useful ability: skill appraisal. It could inspect other people, and even show Fade correct answers during exams. Luckily, it could not inspect people far stronger than him. Still, Rio decided he would eventually need protection against appraisal. He had no intention of letting Fade discover his secrets. Later that day, Anna made an announcement. "Your midterm exams will begin 1 week from now. The class immediately became chaotic. Some students had focused too much on training. Others had barely studied at all. Many still comforted themselves by comparing their results to Fade. Fade, however, looked completely hopeless. Then suddenly, he froze. His eyes focused on something only he could see. Rio immediately understood. The system had arrived. A few moments later, Fade's expression completely changed. Confidence filled his eyes. And he suddenly started laughing loudly. Finally, the class thought he had finally lost his mind. Then several bullies immediately attacked him again. Rio simply watched. Having a cheat did not mean Fade should attract attention this early. Most students ignored the beating as usual. They had watched the same thing happen for months, but this time, Kira finally stepped in. "Stop, or I'll beat all of you myself." The bullies backed away and left. By then, Fade was already unconscious. Kira ordered another student to carry him to the healer's office. Rio was not surprised. The main heroine had always possessed a strong sense of justice. From Fade's side, things looked very different. Fade Crest came from an ordinary family and always dreamed of becoming a strong awakened. When he was accepted into Great Freya Academy, his whole family celebrated. His parents prepared gifts, and even his little sister came to see him off. After reaching the academy, Fade was amazed by his luxurious dorm. But during his first month, he became too comfortable. He spent most of his time sleeping and barely trained his newly awakened magic. Fade still believed he could easily catch up later. During the entrance ceremony, he was excited to see many famous awakened. He was especially happy to see Raji, whom he admired since childhood. After entering his classroom, Fade stayed up, playing games the previous night, so he decided to sleep for a few minutes. That mistake changed everything. Anna caught him sleeping in class. And because Fade was also ranked last, bullies quickly targeted him. At first, Fade believed they would eventually stop. Instead, the bullying became worse. Whenever he tried fighting back, they attacked him even harder. They also interrupted his training constantly. Fade even reported them to the teachers, but the teachers simply told him he was too weak. 4 months passed like this. Fade barely trained or improved. He also hid everything from his family because he did not want them worrying. Then Anna announced the midterm exams. Fade completely lost hope and even considered leaving the academy. But at that moment, a system appeared before him. The strongest system of magic has found a suitable host. Fade immediately accepted. The system successfully bound itself to his soul and generated a new status window. Fade was still only a G-rank mage, with E-rank mage aptitude, G+ mana manipulation, and G-rank fireball. His system shop was still locked, and he had 0 X points, but the system's evaluation called him the favored child of the heavens, someone who could eventually become the strongest. Fade became so excited that he started laughing without thinking. That immediately attracted the bullies again. They attacked him in the middle of class. Fade tried fighting back, but there were too many of them. Nobody helped. Eventually, he lost consciousness. When Fade woke up, he was lying inside the healer's office. Remembering everyone who'd laughed at him filled him with anger. "I'll beat every one of you someday. I'll make you beg for forgiveness." Soon the door opened and Kira walked inside. She explained that she was the one who helped bring him there. Fade nervously told her he was fine. Kira then left to prepare for the exams. But Fade could not stop thinking about her beauty. Now that he had the system, he believed he would become extremely powerful, and once that happened, he planned to make Kira his woman. Anyone who tried stopping him would become his enemy. After classes ended, every student started preparing seriously for the midterms. Even the usually empty library became completely packed. Everyone knew rankings were extremely important at Great Freya Academy. High-ranked students could visit better guilds, while the top 100 might even meet powerful awakened. At the same time, a rumor about Fade spread through the academy. He had officially challenged the bullies who tormented him. Most students believed he would lose badly. The duel was scheduled for 1 month later, after the midterms. But Rio already knew the result. According to the novel, Fade would win. During the physical exam, he would obtain a fruit that greatly increased his strength. Rio had no reason to steal it. He was already at the peak of D rank. 1 week later, the written exams began. Rio found the questions manageable and finished within an hour. He knew he could pass easily without any cheat. But Fade had already finished before him. The next day came the physical exam. Students gathered before an E-rank dungeon portal. Anna explained the rules. They could earn points by killing monsters or completing hidden missions. Defeating the dungeon boss would give extra marks. The teachers would monitor everyone for safety. Once Rio entered, he appeared on a lush mountain. His plan was simple: kill around 15 monsters, reach the top 100, then avoid drawing too much attention. Soon, he encountered a mature E+ giant bear. The monster charged directly toward him, but before it could reach Rio, one slash ended the fight. Rio had killed it without even using a skill. His speed and strength had improved far more than before. Over the next half hour, Rio killed 15 E+ monsters, each with a single strike. With 1 hour still remaining, he decided to visit the boss. He did not plan to take the kill. He only wanted to test his swordsmanship against it. When Rio reached the boss area, Leah was already fighting the monster. She had several injuries, but continued attacking and leaving deep wounds across its body. Then the boss suddenly entered a rage. Its eyes turned crimson, and its attacks became much more violent. Leah panicked for a moment. That small mistake gave the monster an opening. It struck her and knocked her to the ground. As it prepared another attack, Rio suddenly appeared. With one fast strike, he sliced off the monster's limbs. He deliberately left it alive. Before Leah could understand what happened, exhaustion made her collapse. Rio looked at the wounded boss. "Looks like I got here a little late. Anyway, let's finish this." He cut off the monster's head, then immediately left before the teachers arrived to take Leah away. After helping Leah, Rio headed toward Fade's hidden mission area. According to the novel, the mission appeared in a desert zone, near a strange lake sitting in the middle of the desert. The reward was a special fruit that increased strength, but reaching it meant passing a D-rank monster guarding the lake. Rio already knew how Fade would get around that problem. Other students would attract the monster first, allowing Fade to steal the fruit during the chaos. 15 minutes later, Rio reached the area and hid nearby. Everything happened exactly like the novel. Fade grabbed the fruit and escaped, while the other students immediately chased after him. The D-rank snake monster stayed behind. Rio now confirmed that stronger monsters usually remained inside their territory. Once everyone disappeared, he approached the snake. The monster sensed Rio's D-rank aura and became cautious. Rio attacked first. His slash opened a deep wound across its head, but failed to kill it instantly. Rio immediately understood the difference. Pure strength was no longer enough to one-shot D-rank monsters. When the snake tried escaping, Rio finished it with another slash. With nothing else to do, he spent the remaining exam time meditating. Dungeon mana was much denser, making it perfect for training. Soon, a white light teleported him outside. Anna explained that their wrist clocks had recorded their kill counts. The final results would be released in a few days. Rio was satisfied. The teachers could track kills and student health, but they could not see exactly how the fights happened. That meant his real strength was still hidden. Rio returned to his room and rested. The next morning, Leah unexpectedly came looking for him. Soon, they were sitting together inside a cafe. Leah stared directly at him. "What do you want for saving me?" Rio calmly answered. "Transfer money to my account." Leah seemed surprised. "Nothing else?" "If you're not satisfied, send more money." Leah agreed and left shortly afterward. Only then did Rio notice something annoying. She had not paid for her tea. While walking back, Rio remembered Leah's background. She was the only daughter of an S-rank awakener, and her father led Silver Shadow, the world's second strongest guild. The strongest guild belonged to Link's SS-rank father. Rio considered joining Silver Shadow in the future. It could protect him until he reached SS rank himself. He had no interest in joining Link's guild. That guild would eventually become Fade's enemy, and both Link and his guild would be destroyed by him. Rio preferred letting Fade handle that problem, but if Fade ever became Rio's enemy, Rio had no problem destroying both him and his system. For now, another problem mattered more. Fade's appraisal could eventually expose Rio's secrets, so Rio decided it was time to steal another opportunity, one that could block Fade's appraisal. After the midterms, students received 15 days without classes. Most went home or took vacations. Rio did neither. Instead, he entered a C-rank dungeon called Lizard Nest. His goal was another hidden opportunity from the novel. After searching for half an hour, Rio found the massive lizard nest. This time, fighting was unavoidable. The moment he entered, a 3-meter lizard attacked him. Rio killed it with a single slash. Then he continued deeper, slaughtering every lizard standing in his way. About 1 hour later, he reached the boss room. Inside waited a 5-meter C-plus lizard capable of breathing fire. Since Rio had not reached C-rank yet, this would finally be a real fight. The monster attacked first with a blast of flames. Rio dodged and immediately struck its neck, but his sword only left a shallow wound. The lizard countered with its tail, forcing Rio to retreat. Rio finally activated body strengthening, temporarily increasing all his stats. However, the skill consumed a large amount of mana. The lizard attacked again. Rio dodged the flames and landed another strike, this time leaving a deep wound across its back. When the monster swung its tail, Rio deflected it with his sword. Then he decided to finish the fight, lightning sword. Rio unleashed an extremely fast and precise slash, and instantly beheaded the C+ boss. The attack consumed most of his mana, so Rio meditated for half an hour to recover. Mana could only be restored through meditation or expensive recovery potions. Rio had one potion from the academy, but decided to save it for a real life or death situation. After recovering, he approached several statues near the wall. He pushed the statue holding a spear and shield, triggering a hidden mechanism. The wall opened and revealed a secret corridor. Rio immediately entered. In the original story, Fade discovered this passage by accident. During his fight with the boss, the statue was destroyed, revealing the hidden corridor naturally, but Rio's fight never brought the monster near that statue. Once again, Rio realized how powerful the protagonist's luck really was. Fade could discover rare treasures by accident, while Rio had to rely entirely on his knowledge of the novel. Still, Rio did not care. He would find his own opportunities himself. While Rio was stealing another opportunity, Fade had already entered the arena. After the midterms, Fade cleared E-rank dungeons for XP and quickly raised himself to F+ rank. He also bought several skills from the system shop, including appraisal, which let him check other people's status. When Fade inspected the 5 bullies, he found they were only E-rank. They were still stronger than him, but Fade was confident he could defeat them. The spectator area was packed with first-year students. Almost everyone expected Fade to lose badly. But Fade ignored their insults. He only wanted revenge. Soon, the first bully entered the ring. He told Fade to surrender. Fade ignored him and prepared his wand. The match began, and the bully rushed forward with a dagger. But before he could reach Fade, a huge blue fireball smashed into his face. The bully collapsed from the pain and was immediately carried to the healer's office. Everyone was stunned. Then the remaining 4 bullies attacked Fade together. Fade calmly created 4 fireballs. The bullies tried to dodge, but the flames changed direction in midair and followed them. All 4 were hit, and moments later, they were also taken to the healer's office. The entire audience fell into chaos. They had never seen normal fireballs move like that. More importantly, the flames were blue. That meant Fade had mastered Fireball to an extremely high level. Fade enjoyed everyone's shocked reactions. Watching from a private room above the arena was Kira Bloodlight. Even she was surprised. Despite training under her father since childhood, she still had not mastered Fireball to that level. Kira became interested in the spell. After the match, Fade returned toward his dorm, but Kira's maid suddenly invited him for tea. Fade immediately accepted. During their meeting, Kira asked how he mastered Fireball so quickly. Fade gave her a mostly fake story to impress her, but Rio already knew the truth. Fade had simply used XP points from his system and directly increased the spell's proficiency. Inside Lizard Nest, Rio continued through the hidden corridor. He avoided every trap using his knowledge from the novel. After half an hour, he reached an old hidden library. Rio immediately found a book called Black Records. He placed it inside a drawer, triggering a hidden magic circle. Seconds later, a mysterious flask appeared on the table. Rio picked it up, then smashed it directly on the floor. The broken pieces transformed into white light and entered his body. Passive skill acquired, True Immunity. Rio had successfully obtained exactly what he wanted. True Immunity could block unusual abilities like appraisal, along with mental attacks, spirit attacks, and curses. It could not block normal physical or magical attacks, but its greatest value would appear much later. The future SSS rank boss possessed atomic disintegration, a skill capable of completely destroying someone's body. True Immunity could block even that. Originally, Fade would obtain this skill through pure luck, but now Rio had taken it first. Fade would have to buy it from his system shop instead. Rio then returned to the academy. On the way, he heard about Fade defeating the bullies. He knew Fade was probably spending time with Kira now. In the original story, Kira would become his greatest supporter and eventually marry him after he reached SS rank. For a moment, Rio wondered if he should find a girlfriend too. But he quickly pushed that thought aside. Becoming stronger was still more important. Back in his dorm, Rio entered his private training room. His fight against the C+ lizard had pushed him to peak D. He had delayed his breakthrough until returning safely. Now, he finally released his suppression. A few minutes later, Rio successfully reached C rank. This was an important breakthrough. At C rank, Awakened could finally release mana outside their bodies. Rio could now use mana for defense and cover his sword with it to greatly increase its power, but his breakthrough gave him even more. His techniques and skills increased in rank. Basic swordsmanship reached C, unlocking a new skill called Sword Energy. However, because of Rio's high sword talent, Sword Energy immediately evolved into Sword Aura. Elemental Sword Art also reached C. Rio gained another new skill called Handling, giving him the ability to freely control his aura. Rio was shocked by how much he gained from one breakthrough. When he checked his status, his rank was now C. All 5 main stats had reached 50. His mana increased to 100, while Body Strengthening and Lightning Sword reached D+. He also possessed Sword Aura and Handling at G. Sar, and most importantly, True Immunity was an X-rank passive skill. Rio's growth had become even more terrifying. The 15-day break quickly passed, and students returned to the academy. Soon, the midterm rankings were finally released. Rio checked the results and found himself ranked second, exactly where he wanted to be. He had entered the top 100 without attracting too much attention. Rio knew another major event would begin soon, so he immediately focused on preparing for it. A few days later, Anna announced that their class had achieved the highest overall midterm results. As a reward, they would visit the Raoul Islands in 2 days. She also warned everyone to bring their weapons, because several activities would take place there. Rio already knew exactly what was waiting for them. The Raoult Islands were a beautiful group of islands, named after a famous S-rank water mage born there. They had luxury hotels, a small population, and several low-rank dungeon gates. But, according to the novel, the islands would soon become a disaster zone. While Fade and his classmates were staying there, an S-rank dungeon gate would suddenly open. It would release a massive number of monsters below S-rank. Several students would die, and eventually, everyone would be forced to evacuate the islands. Rio knew he could not depend on Fade's ridiculous luck. If he encountered an A-rank monster, he could easily die. So, he prepared extra potions and increased his training before the trip. 2 days later, the students gathered and boarded a train to the nearby port. Rio took a window seat and prepared to rest, but Leah suddenly sat beside him. "I'm only sitting here because there aren't any other seats." Rio barely reacted. "Yeah, okay." Leah immediately warned him to keep his distance and threatened to break his jaw if he touched her. Then she reminded him that saving her once meant nothing. She bragged about her many wealthy suitors, the money she had transferred to Rio, and even her luxury cars and huge villa. Rio simply sat there listening to her non-stop talking, but inside, he was completely confused. The Leah from the novel barely spoke to anyone, and usually only opened her mouth to insult Kira. Yet this Leah would not stop talking. Rio could only wonder, was Leah always this much of a chatterbox? Seeing Leah would not stop talking, Rio simply ignored her and fell asleep. A few hours later, the train finally reached the port. The students would board a famous ship called Stormwalker. According to its captain, the ship had survived countless storms and monster attacks. Anna allowed everyone to explore the port until the next morning, but warned that anyone arriving late would be left behind. Rio decided to visit the shopping area. On the way, he remembered another event from the novel. Fade would enter an expensive clothing shop and get mocked for being poor. Then Kira would appear, buy the entire shop for him, and help Fade defeat the shopkeeper and his friends afterward. Rio had no interest in watching another cliché scene. But before he could leave, Leah grabbed his hand. She wanted him to visit a nearby bar with her. With nothing better to do, Rio agreed. Leah immediately started drinking. Several troublemakers became interested in her, but Rio knocked them unconscious simply by releasing some of his aura. After a few hours, Leah became completely drunk. She revealed that nobody had ever protected her before. Even her father had always been extremely strict. He taught her that facing danger was necessary to become stronger. That was why she was actually angry when Rio interrupted her boss fight. Soon after, Leah fell asleep. Rio realized the novel had never explained this side of her past. Maybe her behavior toward Kira had deeper reasons, and perhaps her future could now change as well. Since Rio did not know Leah's room number, he carried her back to his room. He placed her on the bed and decided to tease her when she woke up. The next morning, Stormwalker left the port. The journey to the Rout Islands would take 15 days. By the following evening, Leah finally woke up inside Rio's room. She quickly checked herself and realized everything was normal. Then Rio casually offered her some coffee. Leah immediately demanded to know what happened. Rio decided to mess with her, pretending something embarrassing had happened while she was drunk. Leah completely panicked. Rio kept teasing her for a little longer, until she looked ready to cry. Then he finally admitted the truth. "Relax, nothing happened. I was just messing with you." Realizing she had been fooled, Leah became extremely embarrassed. She stormed out while promising to get revenge someday. Rio sat near the window, satisfied with himself. But his peaceful moment did not last long. Suddenly, the entire ship started shaking, and screams echoed from outside. Rio sighed. What happened now? Could an extra not even enjoy his coffee in peace? Rio walked onto the deck and found sea monsters attacking Stormwalker, but one monster immediately caught his attention. A massive S-rank octopus stood directly in front of the ship. Rio became cautious. High-rank monsters rarely left their territories without a reason. More importantly, this attack had never happened in the original novel. Rio reminded himself that this was now a real world, and events could happen outside the original plot. Suddenly, the octopus attacked the ship with its huge tentacles, but a massive magic circle instantly appeared around Stormwalker. A rain of fire crashed down on the octopus, forcing it to escape underwater. Anna then appeared on deck. With another spell, she burned the remaining sea monsters almost instantly. Rio finally understood the power of a true S rank. Anna had destroyed thousands of monsters with almost no effort. The journey remained peaceful for several days. Then the giant octopus returned. This time, it brought an entire army of sea monsters, including several sharkmen. Rio could not understand why the monster kept attacking their ship. Then his heart suddenly started pounding. Rio immediately rolled away, just before a huge tentacle destroyed his previous position. That confirmed it. The octopus was specifically targeting him. Rio joined the other students on deck and drew his sword. Anna flew toward the octopus. "I'll handle that monster. You deal with the smaller ones." The students immediately fought the monsters climbing onto the ship. Rio easily slaughtered the E-rank creatures without using his skills, but after half an hour, the sharkmen entered the fight, and the students quickly started struggling. Rio soon noticed 10 B-rank sharkmen heading directly toward him. He could not defeat them while hiding his abilities. So, Rio slowly moved toward an isolated part of the ship. As expected, all 10 sharkmen followed him. Rio immediately activated body strengthening. He ambushed the first sharkman and killed it instantly. Then he quickly killed another. When the others attacked together, Rio backed away, before using their mistake to kill 2 more. But the remaining sharkmen stopped falling for his traps. They entered the water and surrounded him from both sides. Rio finally stopped holding back. Lightning sword. His lightning-fast slash instantly killed 3 sharkmen, but another stabbed Rio in the shoulder, then injured his right leg before he could fully escape. Rio countered with handling, redirecting the enemy's spear and killing 2 more sharkmen. Only one remained. Sword aura. Fire strike. Blue flames covered Rio's sword. The water-based sharkman became distracted by the intense flames, giving Rio enough time to cut off its head. Rio had won, but it was easily his hardest battle so far. He immediately drank a healing potion and recovered from his injuries. After resting briefly, Rio returned to the main deck. Anna's fight against the octopus was nearly finished. Both sides were exhausted and seriously wounded. Eventually, the octopus escaped again. Anna was too tired to chase it, especially since fighting at sea put a fire mage at a disadvantage. She returned to Stormwalker and eliminated the remaining monsters. Rio then helped carry injured students to the healer. Fade, Leah, Kira, and Link had avoided serious injuries. None of them had encountered the B-rank sharkman. Rio still could not understand why the octopus specifically wanted him. Then he remembered the strange heart palpitations. It felt less like fear, and more like his body was trying to warn him about something. For now, Rio could only hope to understand it later. Several peaceful days passed after the attack. Eventually, Stormwalker safely reached the Rout Islands. The injured students had recovered, and Anna had restored her mana. The islands were connected by stable teleportation portals, created at the request of the S-rank water mage Raoult. After reaching the hotel, Rio went straight to his room. Exhausted from the journey, he quickly fell asleep. But suddenly, Rio felt something calling him. He woke inside a strange darkness. There were no stars or moons outside. Something seemed to pull him toward the beach. The closer Rio got to the ocean, the stronger the strange feeling became. Then a harsh voice suddenly shouted, "So you are here, you little rat! Today I will kill you!" The giant octopus appeared directly before Rio. Its massive eyes were locked onto him. Then Rio suddenly woke up. It had only been a dream. He drank some water and looked outside. The 2 moons and bright stars were still there. Rio finally relaxed, but the dream left him deeply confused. Was it simply a nightmare, or was something trying to send him a message? The next morning, the students traveled to the main Raoul Island. They would stay there for about 1 week. Rio already knew the S-rank gate would open after that. Until then, the students were free to enjoy the islands. But Rio was thinking about another event. After Fade defeated the bullies, they asked Link to avenge them. That would divide the students into 2 groups. One side would support Fade, while the other would follow Link. To settle everything, both groups would start a dungeon hunting contest. The goal was simple: clear as many E-rank dungeons as possible before time ran out. And of course, there was a bet. The winner between Fade and Link would get a kiss from Kira. But Rio knew Fade was actually going to lose. Link was already close to C rank, while Fade was still only E rank. However, the contest would never finish. Before Link could officially win, the S rank dungeon would open and interrupt everything. Rio decided not to get involved. Instead, he focused on training for the disaster coming in 1 week. He also knew warning everyone would be pointless. Nobody would believe he knew an S-rank gate was about to appear. So, Rio simply prepared himself. Over the next few days, events followed the novel. Fade and Link formed their teams and began clearing low-rank dungeons across the islands. The students became so obsessed with the contest that officials struggled to control them. Some even started suffering from battle poisoning. This happened when Awakeners fought inside dungeons for too long. They slowly lost their reason and became focused only on killing. If they were not removed in time, it could eventually damage their brains. Luckily, officials had already prepared teams to carry exhausted students outside. After clearing their 5th dungeon, Fade and his team finally collapsed. Link's group was also exhausted, but Link himself remained standing because of his C-rank strength. He was already confident that he had won. The contest would officially end the next day, but at exactly 8 a.m., a massive spatial shockwave spread across the Raoult Islands. Rio immediately knew what it meant. It's finally starting. Huge cracks appeared in the space between the islands. They merged together, creating a massive dungeon gate nearly 500 meters wide. Its color changed from black to purple, and it began absorbing enormous amounts of mana. The officials immediately sealed the area. They knew the gate was preparing to release a huge monster wave. Reinforcements were still around 4 hours away, and the few warships nearby were not enough. Rio stared at the gate in amazement. This was an S-rank dungeon. The spatial pressure alone could destroy creatures below B rank. Even B rank Awakeners could not endure it for long. Only S-rank fighters could safely approach the gate. S-rank dungeons had once been considered massive disasters. They could not release S-rank monsters themselves, but they could release huge numbers of weaker monsters. Nowadays, powerful Awakeners had made these gates far more manageable. They had even become important sources of valuable materials. But Rio was thinking about something else. This disaster would bring many B-rank monsters, which meant it was the perfect chance to test his new strength. Rio smiled. He was actually looking forward to the fight. Once the S-rank gate stabilized, monsters began pouring out. At first, the defenders easily slaughtered the weaker creatures, but their numbers kept increasing. Rio stayed near the rear of the battlefield. He could already kill B-rank monsters, but several A-rank monsters were fighting Anna near the front. One stray attack from them could kill him instantly. So, Rio decided to save his strength for retreating. Soon, he understood why Anna struggled in the original story. Nearly 40 A-rank monsters were attacking her at once. While the gate kept releasing even more, the situation quickly became impossible to control. Anna ordered the nearby civilians to evacuate. Then the defense line slowly started collapsing. When Anna was forced back, the A-rank monsters attacked the frontline defenders. Several awakeners and unlucky students were killed instantly. Anna finally ordered every student to retreat toward Stormwalker, but some students were trapped inside the monster wave, and nobody could save them. Rio had avoided the front line for exactly this reason. Just before leaving, Rio suddenly remembered someone, Leah. He found her struggling to retreat. She had exhausted herself fighting at the front and could barely continue moving. Then a B-rank lion monster charged straight toward her. Leah had no strength left to defend herself, but before its attack landed, the monster suddenly collapsed into several pieces. Rio stood nearby with his sword. "Need some help, Tsundere-chan?" Leah wanted to respond, but exhaustion finally made her faint. Rio caught her and carried her towards Stormwalker. While retreating, Rio remembered Leah's original fate. In the novel, that same lion monster would destroy her face. Because Leah had rushed to the front while competing with Kira, she exhausted her mana too quickly and failed to retreat. The intelligent lion would then capture her instead of killing her. For 2 days, it would repeatedly attack and torment her. By the time Anna rescued Leah, her wounds could no longer be healed properly. The experience would leave Leah terrified of monsters and make her hatred toward Kira even worse. Eventually, she would become a true villainess, before dying after betraying Fade's party to an SSS rank boss. But Rio had changed all of that. Since he remembered Leah's fate in time, he decided to save her. About 1 hour later, Rio reached Stormwalker. Many injured students were already receiving treatment. He carried Leah to the healer's office. After examining her, the healer confirmed she was only unconscious. There were no serious injuries. Rio then brought Leah back to his room. For some reason, he felt genuinely relieved, and that confused him. Rio had lived as an orphan in both lives, and had never really understood feelings like love. But now, one strange thought entered his mind. Could he actually be falling for her? After several hours of fighting, reinforcements finally reached the Raul Islands. The remaining students were ordered back onto Stormwalker. Once everyone who survived boarded, the ship immediately left the islands. The mood was completely different from before. Around 50 students had died during the monster attack, and almost everyone else was injured. The incident quickly became a huge problem for Great Freya Academy. Since the trip had been organized by the Academy, the families demanded responsibility. Within hours, the news spread everywhere. The Academy's enemies also used the disaster to attack its reputation. In the end, the Academy paid heavy compensation to the victims' families, but its reputation still suffered badly. Anna also received an official notice because of the incident. However, Rio remembered that she would continue teaching their class. For now, he had another concern. Several days had already passed, yet Leah still had not woken up. Meanwhile, Leah was trapped inside memories of her childhood. When she was 5, her mother died to a monster right before her eyes. Her father saved her, but the trauma completely changed her. Leah slowly became jealous whenever she saw happy families. That jealousy became especially strong toward Kira, who had once been her best friend. Over time, that friendship turned into hatred. Leah tried asking her father for help, but after her mother's death, he became obsessed with work and disappeared into dungeon raids for months at a time. Leah was left almost completely alone. Eventually, she found one escape: swordsmanship. Training gave her something to focus on, and slowly helped control her depression. She became so obsessed that others started calling her a battle maniac. Later, Leah earned a place at Great Freya Academy. She originally hoped to make friends there, but instead she found bullying, manipulation, and constant competition. Because of her cold personality, most students avoided her. Whenever someone approached, Leah usually challenged them to a fight. To her, fighting was simply the easiest way to understand someone, but everyone misunderstood her intentions, and her reputation only became worse. Seeing Kira surrounded by friends made Leah even more jealous, and once Kira grew close to Fade, those buried emotions became much stronger. Then Leah met Rio. During the midterm exam, he saved her from the dungeon boss. For the first time in years, someone had protected her without asking for anything first. Leah later investigated Rio's background. She learned he was an orphan and a survivor of the Drift City massacre. That made her sympathize with him even more. When she offered him a reward for saving her, Rio simply asked for money. That answer completely surprised her. Afterward, Leah began watching him more closely. Rio seemed like an ordinary student, except for his unusually fast sword attacks and extreme training routine. He trained so much that even Leah found it ridiculous. Yet his written exam scores were still better than hers. Then came the train journey, where Leah accidentally talked far more than she intended. Later, she woke inside Rio's room after getting drunk. Even though Rio only teased her, part of Leah strangely felt disappointed when she learned nothing happened. Meeting Rio had clearly started changing her. Then Leah finally opened her eyes. Rio immediately noticed. "You finally woke up. You had me worried." Leah realized she was inside his room again. Rio explained that she had collapsed while escaping the monsters, and he had saved her. This time, Leah quietly answered, "Thanks." Rio suddenly froze. He handed her some food, then quickly left the room. Leah watched him leave, confused. But while eating, a small smile appeared on her face. Even though Rio rarely showed emotion, she realized he was actually kind. Outside the ship, Rio was completely confused. The Leah he remembered from the novel never thanked anyone, yet she had just thanked him naturally. Rio started wondering if his actions had triggered some unknown change in the plot. For now, he decided to observe what happened next. This world was becoming much more unpredictable, but before Rio could think any further, Stormwalker suddenly shook violently. Rio immediately recognized the familiar presence. The giant octopus had returned again. The giant octopus returned once again, and blocked Stormwalker's path. This time, its army had no monsters above C rank. Most stronger monsters had already died in the previous battle. Still, only Anna could fight the S-rank octopus. But before Rio could react, a terrifying pain suddenly attacked his consciousness. Rio instantly collapsed. The octopus immediately looked satisfied, as if this had been its real goal from the beginning. Anna misunderstood its reaction. She thought the monster was looking down on her because she was injured. That instantly made her furious. She released her S-rank aura, but strangely, the octopus tried to leave instead of fighting. Anna refused to let it escape. She protected Stormwalker with a barrier, then flew after the monster. A massive bombardment of fire arrows covered the sky, forcing the wounded octopus to fight back. Anna burned its tentacles with powerful blue flames. The octopus countered by covering itself with water mana. Soon, both entered a long battle of attrition. Anna slowly drained the monster's mana, but consumed nearly half of her own in the process. Once the octopus ran out of mana, its defenses weakened badly. Still, its massive body allowed it to continue fighting. Anna was also reaching her limit. At this rate, both could have died. Then suddenly, the octopus went completely limp. Its tentacles fell lifelessly into the ocean, and its huge body started sinking. Anna had no idea why it died so suddenly, but she was too exhausted to investigate. She returned to Stormwalker and immediately collapsed. Everyone naturally believed Anna had killed the monster, but the truth was completely different. Earlier, Leah had found Rio unconscious behind the ship. Since his heartbeat was normal, she assumed he had simply collapsed from exhaustion. Leah carried him to the healer, then stayed nearby and took care of him. Meanwhile, Rio's consciousness was somewhere else. The giant octopus appeared before him again, just like in his strange dream. It claimed Rio had escaped last time because Anna interfered, but this time it planned to kill him. Rio demanded to know what it wanted. The monster accidentally mentioned something called fragments. Before Rio could learn more, a powerful attack directly targeted his soul and will. The system finally revealed the monster's name, Carpil. It was a named monster. Named monsters possess true names, giving them the ability to understand unusual laws and abilities. They were extremely rare and dangerous. Rio quickly realized he could actually die here. If his soul was destroyed, his body would remain alive without any will. Then suddenly, the pain disappeared. True immunity activated. Carpil's unusual attack had triggered Rio's X-rank passive skill. True immunity completely blocked the attack, then absorbed its energy, but it did not stop there. The skill sent the absorbed attack back toward Carpil. Counterattack successful. Carpil's soul and will were instantly destroyed. That was why the octopus suddenly died during its fight with Anna. But Rio's notifications continued. You have killed Carpil, holder of an unknown fragment. The fragment is being transferred to you. Rio froze. What? A few hours later, Rio finally woke up. Leah was sleeping on the sofa beside him. Rio quietly covered her with a blanket and left the room. Stormwalker would reach the shore soon. and Rio was already thinking about his next move. To keep his lead over Fade, he needed to steal more opportunities without changing the main story too much. A few hours later, the ship finally reached the port. The students were relieved to see land again. After the constant attacks, almost everyone was completely exhausted. Rio looked back at Stormwalker. If he had never obtained true immunity, Carpili would have already destroyed his soul. For the first time, Rio fully understood something important. This world would not always follow the novel. Unexpected events could happen at any time. Back at the academy, Anna gave everyone 1 week off. Rio used that chance to start another stealing trip. After a long journey, he reached another city. The next morning, Rio headed toward the Lake of Sean. It was a famous tourist spot, known for a legend that wishes made there could come true. But Rio was not interested in that story. He crossed the bridge and entered the nearby forest. After several minutes, he found an empty area between the trees. Rio sat in the center and deliberately lowered his guard. About half an hour later, thick fog completely surrounded him. Rio started walking toward the direction of the sun, but even after 2 hours, he kept returning to the exact same spot. Rio immediately recognized the challenge, the endless path of perseverance. In the original story, Fade and Kira discovered this place during a date. They became trapped inside the same fog, then accidentally found the correct route through pure luck. Rio already knew the solution, so no matter how many times he returned to the beginning, he simply kept walking forward. Eventually, the environment finally changed. Then a massive voice echoed through the fog. It praised Rio for his perseverance. The fog disappeared, and an enormous black snake appeared before him. The creature was so massive that Rio could not even see its full body. Even Carpal looked tiny compared to it. Rio immediately recognized its level, an SS rank monster. The snake asked for his name. "My name is Rio Flash." Then it demanded to know why he had disturbed it. Rio calmly claimed he had simply gotten lost, but then he addressed the creature directly. Marik, the great illusionary holy beast. Marik was surprised that Rio knew his identity. Rio explained that human history books recorded how Marik once trapped the 4th Demon General's army inside an infinite illusion. That answer pleased the monster. As promised, Marik opened a portal for Rio. Rio entered without hesitation. Only after the portal closed did he finally relax. Standing before an SS rank monster had placed enormous pressure on him. One wrong sentence could have killed him instantly, but Rio survived. And now, an ancient tomb stood directly in front of him. Rio smiled. Only half of the journey remained. From Marik's side, Rio's arrival was extremely unusual. Thousands had died inside his infinite illusion before, and even those who escaped often lost their will before him. But Rio kept walking without fear or hesitation. Inside the illusion, 15 full days had passed. Yet Rio never stopped moving forward. That alone greatly impressed Marik. Even when Marik increased the pressure of his presence, Rio remained calm. Marik also tried using his intuition to judge Rio's words, but something blocked him from seeing whether Rio was lying. That made Rio even more mysterious. In the end, Marik kept his promise and opened a portal to Rio's desired destination. Meanwhile, Rio arrived before a massive iron gate. He remembered how Fade and Kira reached this place in the original story. Thanks to their luck, they escaped Marik's illusion in only 6 days. Kira recognized Marik from history books, then praised his past achievements until he let them leave. Rio, however, had needed true immunity to block Marik's intuition. Without it, Marik could have discovered his lie immediately. Rio now understood that heavenly luck was powerful, but it was not completely unbeatable. Ahead of him stood the Tomb of Wishes. Rio pushed open the iron gate and entered. After crossing a long corridor, he reached a huge hall with a beautiful lake inside. Beside it stood the grave of Ivan, the greatest magician ever recorded. Ivan had once reached the peak of SS rank, and was powerful enough to destroy continents with his magic. But he failed to break beyond that limit, and eventually died. Before dying, Ivan created this hidden dimension for his grave. Marik, his longtime friend, continued protecting it afterward. The lake beside the grave was the true Lake of Wishes. It formed from Ivan's remaining magic and essence, and it could grant only 5 wishes. However, each person could receive only 1, and the wish had to remain within SS rank limits. The lake still had all the 5 wishes available. In the original story, Fade wished for stronger magic, and his fire magic evolved significantly. Kira chose knowledge, and received part of Ivan's understanding of history and magic. Rio now had the same choice, knowledge or strength. But Rio already possessed knowledge of the future. What he needed most was power, so he walked toward the lake, focused his mind, and made his wish. I wish for strength. Rio's wish was finally granted, but instead of giving him raw power directly, the lake generated a strange new skill. Ultimate skill acquired, concentration. Rio also discovered his status window could show detailed information about his own skills. He decided to check everything after returning to the academy. A portal then appeared inside the tomb, clearly telling him his time there was over. Rio immediately entered. He had no intention of repeating Fade's mistake. In the original story, Fade tried absorbing Ivan's remaining SS rank essence, hoping to gain huge amounts of system points, but the essence detected his attempt and threw him out of the tomb. That action also angered Merrick. Afterward, Merrick repeatedly sent snake monsters after Fade. Eventually, Fade would kill Merrick himself, then destroy the Lake of Wishes and absorb its remaining essence. Rio wanted nothing to do with that future conflict, so once he returned to the forest, he immediately escaped Merrick's illusion territory. Back at the academy, Rio finally checked his status. His rank had reached C, basic swordsmanship and elemental sword art were both C rank. Body strengthening and lightning sword reached C core, while sword aura and handling reached D. True immunity remained his X rank passive skill. But two new things appeared. The first was his ultimate skill, concentration. The second was the unknown fragment he received from Carpeel. Rio then opened the new skill information panel. Basic swordsmanship now gave him 25% extra sword damage. Elemental sword art increased his attacks by 40%. Body strengthening increased his defense by 45%. Lightning sword increased both damage and speed by 40%. Sword aura allowed him to use elemental attacks through his sword, while handling could redirect enemy attacks. Then Rio checked concentration and immediately froze. The skill doubled all his stats, reactions, and senses. That meant his stats could temporarily jump from 50 to 100. Even someone at peak A rank normally reached around that level. The problem was its massive mana consumption. Rio estimated he could maintain concentration for only 5 minutes. Still, 5 minutes at that level was already terrifying. And strangely, the skill was still incomplete. It needed an unknown second skill before reaching its full form. Finally, Rio checked the unknown fragment, but almost everything remained hidden. The only useful information was simple. He needed more fragments. Rio had never seen anything about these fragments in the original novel. Even worse, the fragment was stored inside his soul, meaning he could not simply throw it away. Rio could only ignore the mystery for now. After everything that happened, he finally allowed himself to rest. The next morning, Rio watched the sunrise while drinking tea. New Year was approaching, and according to the novel, another major event was coming with it. Rio sighed. Could an extra ever live peacefully? Still, he was already looking forward to what came next. Back in Class A3, Anna finally announced the upcoming New Year festival. The festival would begin in 1 week, giving first-year students a chance to relax and join different competitions. Unlike normal academy events, these activities would not affect their rankings. Students could duel, sing, dance, or join other competitions. But Rio already knew this festival would become another disaster. According to the novel, a mind demon would enter the academy disguised as a student's parent. During the festival, parents were allowed inside, and careless security would let the demon pass without much suspicion. The demon would then control several staff members, and secretly place a high-rank mana bomb near the celebration area. Once triggered, the explosion would kill around 300 people, including nearly 50 academy students. Mana bombs were extremely dangerous weapons. Instead of exploding normally, they disturbed the surrounding mana, causing violent mana blasts across the entire area. Higher-level mana bombs were even more terrifying. Perfect mana bombs were considered almost extinct, but their power could damage even SS rank beings and destroy entire continents. The destroyed Maya continent was proof of that. According to history, a perfect mana bomb wiped out the dark elves living there. Luckily, the demon infiltrating the academy only possessed a high-rank bomb. In the original story, Fade would become suspicious of him. Using appraisal, Fade would discover something was wrong, then report it to Anna, but the bomb would explode before they could completely stop it. Still, Fade's early warning would greatly reduce the casualties. That incident would also completely improve his terrible reputation. After helping save everyone, students and teachers would finally start seeing him differently. However, Fade was still only D rank. The Mind Demon itself was around peak B rank, far beyond anything Fade could currently defeat. Even his luck could not completely overcome that difference. Rio also understood one weakness of Fade's appraisal. Relying on it too much could weaken his natural instincts. Still, it remained an extremely useful ability. After class ended, Rio returned to his usual training, but there was one detail he had overlooked. In the original story, Fade discovered the Mind Demon because of Kira and Leah. Kira would participate in a history competition, where her knowledge impressed several teachers. Leah would then start another argument with her to avoid dragging Fade into their conflict. Kira would send him away to collect something from the classroom. While passing through a dark alley, Fade would notice the suspicious man contacting someone. His appraisal would then reveal the danger, but now things had changed. Leah had stopped arguing with Kira. She barely interacted with her anymore, and instead spent much of her time staring at something on her phone. Without their usual argument, Kira might never send Fade through that alley, and Fade might never discover the Mind Demon. Rio had unknowingly changed an important part of the original event, but he still had no idea. For now, he continued training as intensely as always. Rio had never cared this much about training in his previous life, but now he had almost become addicted to growing stronger. Maybe I'm getting addicted to that feeling of becoming stronger. Still, one thing continued bothering him. The more he changed this world, the less reliable his knowledge of the novel became. Rio sighed. Can't an extra have a smooth life? Recently, a strange rumor had spread across the academy, and surprisingly, it was not only about Fade. Students had noticed that Leah had become much quieter. She was still training like crazy, but she had stopped arguing with Kira. Most students were happy about that. However, they still somehow found a reason to insult Fade, and some even planned to beat him later. Rio simply ignored them. To him, they were only future cannon fodder for Fade. Still, the rumors about Leah caught his attention. Originally, Leah should have been depressed around this time, because her face was supposed to be ruined during the Raoult Island disaster. But Rio had changed that future. Now he had no idea what was happening with her. So, he decided to talk to Leah the next time they met. Without realizing it, Rio had slowly started caring about someone for the first time. Meanwhile, Leah was dealing with a completely different problem. Whenever she stopped training, she constantly wanted to see Rio. She wanted to talk to him, and even started secretly taking pictures of him. Leah convinced herself it was only because Rio helped calm her emotions. Nothing more. Luckily, she had an artifact from her father, which could hide her presence from anyone below B rank. That allowed her to watch Rio without being noticed. Still, even Leah started wondering if she was becoming a stalker. Then she overheard several girls talking about the upcoming New Year party. They were preparing dresses and planning who they wanted to dance with. That immediately gave Leah an idea. She had barely interacted with any boy besides Rio, so, in her mind, there was only one obvious partner. But after hearing the other girls, Leah suddenly started seeing them as possible rivals. While she was seriously thinking about the party, Rio suddenly appeared behind her. Are you preparing for war or something? Leah was shocked. She had not even sensed him approaching. She was already near peak D rank. Yet, Rio had completely hidden his presence from her. Rio casually explained that he was simply a little stronger. Of course, he did not reveal that he was already close to peak C rank. Leah immediately wondered if he could read her mind. Rio answered instantly, "No, I can't." That only made Leah more suspicious. Rio laughed and explained that everything was written on her face. Then he teased her for acting like a child. "I am not a child." Rio decided to stop before she actually attacked him. So he changed the subject. He asked what she was preparing for, and jokingly offered to help if she wanted to beat someone. But Leah surprised him. She was not planning to fight anyone. Instead, she wanted to buy clothes for the New Year party. Then, with obvious hesitation, she asked Rio to come with her. "If you're free, you can come with me. But if you don't want to, that's fine too." The academy shopping area was packed because of the upcoming New Year festival. Students were shopping with friends, partners, or waiting for someone to arrive. Rio was sitting near the artificial pond, waiting for Leah. Soon several luxury cars stopped nearby. Bodyguards stepped out first. Then Leah appeared in an elegant dress. Her arrival immediately attracted everyone's attention. Rio looked at her. Quite the entrance. Trying to make everyone jealous of me? Leah blushed and quickly denied it. She claimed she only used the car to arrive faster. Rio simply smiled. Anyway, you look good today. That only made her more embarrassed. After talking briefly, they headed toward the shopping area together. As expected, Rio immediately started receiving jealous looks. Then one young man approached while staring at Leah with obvious bad intentions. Rio instantly became irritated. He released a small amount of aura toward him. The man's expression immediately changed from desire to terror, and he collapsed to the ground in fear. Rio continued walking as if nothing happened. Without realizing it, he had become extremely protective of Leah. Their appearance together quickly caused rumors across the academy. Most people recognized Leah as the daughter of an S-rank awakener, but almost nobody knew who Rio was. Even Leah's guards became suspicious. They secretly photographed Rio and began investigating his background. One of those photos was sent directly to Leah's father. Meanwhile, Rio and Leah continued shopping, completely unaware of what they had just started, far away, near an S-rank dungeon. A powerful man received the photo. He was Leah's father. At first, he was confused, but one thing immediately caught his attention. Leah was smiling. Ever since her mother's death, she had rarely shown genuine happiness. Seeing that smile made him relieved. Still, as her father, he wanted to know exactly who the boy beside her was. The butler explained that Rio was an orphan and currently ranked within the Academy's top 100. He was also a survivor of the Drift City massacre. More importantly, Rio had already saved Leah's life once during the S-rank dungeon incident. Leah's father became more interested. Then he asked for Rio's full name. Rio Flash. The moment he heard the surname, his expression completely changed. Old memories immediately returned. Then one name escaped his mouth. Kevin Flash. The Soul Splitter. Far from the academy, a masked man entered an abandoned house. He activated a hidden, blood-locked teleportation circle and entered a secret underground meeting room. Several other masked people were already waiting around a table. Once everyone arrived, their leader began the meeting. All 10 members confirmed their tasks were complete. Most importantly, their infiltrator had successfully entered Great Freya Academy. Their real plan was then revealed. During the chaos from the Mana Bomb, they planned to kidnap Leah and Kira. By taking both girls hostage, they could force their powerful fathers to hand over a certain artifact. One member then mentioned Rio. His men had noticed Leah spending time with the black-haired student. The leader gave a simple order. If Rio interfered, kill him. This was no ordinary group. Every member was at least B's rank, while their leader had reached A+. Working together, they could kill almost anyone below S rank. Meanwhile, Rio was still shopping with Leah. And for him, helping Leah choose clothes was somehow more exhausting than training. She kept asking his opinion about different outfits, while Rio barely knew anything about fashion. Eventually, Leah appeared wearing one of her choices. Rio immediately froze. "You look cute. But isn't that a little too short?" Leah did not understand at first. Then a small breeze made her realize exactly what he meant. Her face instantly turned red. "Idiot, don't look." Rio could not stop laughing. Later, she returned wearing more casual clothes. The shopping continued peacefully, until both of them decided to have lunch nearby. While they were eating, 2 familiar people suddenly arrived, Fade and Kira. There were no empty tables left, so they sat directly across from Rio and Leah, for the first time. Fade and Rio finally met face to face. The atmosphere instantly became awkward. Kira tried breaking the silence. "What a coincidence. I didn't expect you here, Leah." Leah answered coldly. She clearly still had complicated feelings toward Kira. Kira became quiet afterward. Fade immediately became irritated. He could not stand seeing Leah treat Kira like that. "Stop troubling Kira. I've had enough of your constant fighting. If you do it again, then what?" Rio finally spoke. Fade immediately looked toward him. Something about Rio made him feel strangely uneasy. It was the same dangerous feeling he had once felt around the S-rank octopus. Fade became cautious. "And who are you?" Rio looked straight at him, then calmly gave an answer that shocked everyone at the table. "Me? I'm Rio Flash, a swordsman, and Leah's boyfriend."